Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Radio Ramadan on 87.7 FM. I'd like to start, please, by asking a few of you to text in so that we can get a good interactive show going. You can text us on WhatsApp. It's 077 488 55055. That's 077 488 55055. That's for WhatsApp or text messages. Or if you'd like to say salam and you'd like to ring in, I might ask you to keep it brief because we've got a little bit to get through today. But it's 0116 4822086. That's 0116 4822086. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube, so please do watch us and interact with us on the comments there as well. My name is Asiya. I am here to present a show called Our Communities, Our Care, Our Hospitals. Jazakallah for those of you who have tuned in over the last 3 weeks and are back again this week to hear a new story for the very final time. I can't believe we're on week 4 of Ramadan already, and it's going to be Eid in just a few days. But we've got a jam-packed show today, inshallah. We've got 2 segments to this show today, which is the first one that I've done with 2 bits. The first section, we've got a beautiful sis called Asma Sida. She's asked me not to call her auntie, so we'll call her Asma. She is mother to Aisha Sida, who I got to know about 6 months ago at the Children's Hospital celebration event through work, and she's going to go through Aisha's journey with us and her own very personal journey of having a child who has had to use the hospitals in Leicester. And I've also got a pre-recorded session that will be live with the CEO of University Hospitals of Leicester, Richard Mitchell, that Yasir will very kindly play for us later on in the show. I've got my first message in, and it's my sister. Hey Sissy, it's me, your favorite one and only sis. See you tonight, inshallah. I'll see you later. Jazakallah for your very odd message. Farah, thank you. Sis Asma, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah for coming on with me today. You are the lovely mum of Aisha. And I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about Aisha and a little bit about you, if that's okay.
Oh. Well, Aisha was on last week with brother Irfan,
Yeah.
so you did get to know a little bit about her then. She does have a very life-limiting condition, Morquio syndrome.
Yeah.
And, from day one, from the time she was born, she's needed hospital care. When she was just 9 days old, she was hospitalized with breathing difficulties. We didn't know at that time, that she had a genetic condition.
Yeah.
And we just thought it was just something that she went through with her breathing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's now 24.
Yeah, mashallah.
Yeah.
She's a lovely young woman. I've had
Yeah.
the opportunity to meet her just once
Yeah.
before, but inshallah, many more to come. She's a real advocate, isn't she, of
is,
Muslims with disabilities, for the hospitals as well.
Yes.
She's been fantastic, and as have
Yeah.
all of you. A little bit about you. You're mum to Aisha, but you're also, I can imagine, many, many other things.
Yeah, so I've got Aisha who's 24, Sophia who's 21.
Mashallah.
And, they kind of motivated me to going back into studying as well.
Oh, amazing.
So I'm coming, not quite to the end of the studying, but almost there now.
Oh, mashallah.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. It's really nice to hear, because actually learning is compulsory on all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
We should benefit from increasing knowledge. 2 main questions for you today, Asma, if that's okay. Aisha's use of the hospitals. So she's been, from my understanding, she's been using the hospitals around Leicester for all of her life.
Yes.
Am I right? Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
Yeah.
she has then used the children's hospital side and used adult care.
Yes.
Now that she's a young woman
Yeah.
at 24. Can you describe to me how the care was, and if you've got any examples that you can provide the listeners with today?
Yeah, so Aisha, like I said, she was born at Leicester General, and then 9 days old, we were back on the wards, very difficult circumstances with a 9-day-old baby.
Yeah.
And it was Dr. Nishani who was on the wards that day.
Yeah.
We didn't realize almost 8 months down the line, he was going to give us a diagnosis for Aisha.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was, they all looked after us really well. We were in a side room, and it was great care from day one.
Yeah.
Fast forward 6 months later, we're in Dr. Nishani's office, and you know, he's trying to get a diagnosis for Aisha.
Yeah.
And it was very empathic, you know, the way he did it all.
Yeah. He's very good, isn't he,
yes,
Dr.
he is.
Nishani? He's very
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, and from that time onwards, you know, right through her time with the children's side, it was, you know, I mean, there was times where we were in hospital sometimes for over a month.
Oh,
you know,
subhanallah.
we've spent Ramadan there. We've actually had one Eid in there.
Yeah.
And it can be quite isolating,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of, you know, everybody's busy in Ramadan, so
Yeah.
visitors, you know, everybody's doing their own things. But what we did find is the staff, the nurses, the doctors, the HCAs, you know, the play therapists, hospital school, you know, they all kept Aisha going,
Yeah.
you know, which was absolutely fantastic, because I think without them, our time in the hospital wouldn't have been the same.
You're right. Yeah. Well, you know, we went through, as you know, a very, very similar sort of experience in terms of being in and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And the care is just second to none, isn't it? Everyone, you know, and you'll hear this from Richard a bit later on as well. You know, the staff are unfortunately very overworked, and they're very tired. But that doesn't show, does it? When you,
Absolutely not. Yeah. And when I talk about the NHS and I talk about Leicester Royal Infirmary and Glenfield, you know, I cannot fault it.
Yeah.
Even on their worst days, even when they're short-staffed, you know, they were there to support us as a family.
Yeah.
And they always let me stay. You know, there was never a time that, even in intensive care, I stayed with her.
Yeah.
So there was never a time where I was not allowed to be with Aisha.
They're very respectful of wishes. If they, you know, if you want to stay all the time, that's fine. If you don't want to stay, that's also fine. They're very understanding, and you know, we've spent Ramadan there, as have you. They brought us sehri, they brought us iftar in the evening. You know, even if it was just making a cup of tea and bringing a bowl of Cocoa Pops, which is what we like to eat at sehri time.
Absolutely,
they were absolutely brilliant, and I'm sure you'll second that. In terms of, you mentioned something to me when we were talking a few days ago, Asma, about when driving past the hospital. Can you share that?
Yeah, and that's something that happens to me and I drive past the hospital a lot because of where my placement is.
Yeah.
And every time I pass by, I see Leicester Royal Infirmary there, and I know where the children's wards were on that floor.
Yeah.
And I always look up, because I know there's children behind those glass windows, you know, that have been there, probably there long term.
Yeah.
And, you know, some very ill children in there. And I always think about families, you know, the parents, the children, you know, who, you know, need the support whilst they're in there as well. Yeah.
And I do a very similar thing where if I drive past any of the hospitals, now that I work in the hospital, and I go over, you know, I sometimes go over to the Royal, sometimes go over to the Glenfield, and I often walk the same corridors that I'd walked when I was, you know, when Yahya was there. I drive past and I look up at the windows, because like you, I know where those children's wards are, who's in there, you know, what kind of children they're treating, and the staff that are...
That's right, the staff.
Amazing. But yeah, you know, it's just a little bit of a snippet, I think, for the listeners, of the empathy that doesn't leave you even when you're not in the hospital.
That's
for people who are there. Just a reminder, we've had no more messages come in. It's 077 488 55055. That's 077 488 55055. Please do text in, say salam. If you want to ask any questions, we'll be happy to try and answer them for you. I'm sure if you've got any questions around Aisha, around Yahya, around Asma, or me, we will, inshallah, answer them for you as best as we can. Asma, we've got the Eid Gifts for Children's Wards campaign running at the moment. We've got sort of 3, maybe 4 days left of Ramadan, depending on when you started fasting. You've been there over one Eid.
Yes.
What would the level of joy be like if a ward was presented with an Eid gift?
Oh, overwhelming, I think. Absolutely overwhelming. Because I remember that time when we were in over Eid, and there was a lot of sadness on that day. And, even from Aisha, you know, because I think she was about 13 at the time.
Oh.
And I remember, because everybody, you know, has to get on with Eid and that. And yes, family members did come in and see us later on. But, you know, it's not the same, you know. And to be presented with gifts on Eid day when you're in there, I think would be just icing on the cake for the children.
Yeah, it really would be. It's a difficult time anyway when you're in the hospital, but actually if you know that there's somebody out there who's looking out for celebrations that you celebrate or festivals that you celebrate, you know, same as we would do with Christmas, with Easter, with Easter eggs, that kind of thing. It's something that we started a while ago, me and Imran did, you know, since Yahya was born, and we were given many gifts at Easter time. And so now in my role as working for the charity, I've taken that one step further, and you'll hear a little bit later today about how much money we've raised for it. I'm really proud. You know, those of you who are looking at us on the screens at the moment, you'll see kind of the joy in my face around it, because I'm very passionate about fundraising for one, but fundraising for and on behalf of the Muslim community is really quite special to me. Back on track, I'm gonna pose you a question around parent ambassadors. Aisha said to me, Aisha texted in when we were on the show last week with Musa, and she mentioned to me that she wished that there was a parent ambassador program when she was growing up. How do you feel about the parent ambassador program?
I would totally agree with her, because and that's how I got into doing my counselling, because I started befriending families with newly diagnosed disabled children, and that was something that was one of the nurses gave me a leaflet on, actually, on the ward, and said, you'd be really good at this. So I had intensive training for it, and so I think there's a huge lack of parent ambassadors for the children's side, especially, you know, and it's going to be an amazing program when it does hit off.
I really do hope so. So for those of you listening who don't know, we have successfully, alhamdulillah, launched a parent ambassador program over the course of Ramadan. Those of you who are waiting for more information on that, rest assured I am on it. I will send over those emails as soon as I can. But it's a group of people that we want to get together who have had children either in the hospitals and have had no problems, which is, alhamdulillah, for them, amazing. That's so great. Or parents who have had children within Leicester's hospitals who use the hospitals regularly for their children and their care. It's for all of those parents to come together. It's to provide peer-to-peer support for those parents. You know, this is not... It won't be counselling and it won't be medical support, but it will be peer-to-peer support, sharing journeys, sharing experiences, and sharing, you know, each other's lives almost. Finding friends through pain, if you like, is another way to put it. And also, at the same time, if you're passionate about it, you can fundraise for the charity. You can take part in the events that we run, the big ab sale. We have a fire walk if you fancy doing that. Or you can think up your own sort of community challenges or events and do those yourself. We'll provide full support, the charity will. And there's a real sort of something that really touched my heart is that we're doing it so that children who are in the hospital can have a very peaceful and very nice place to sleep, play and pray. You know, it's our faith is important. The charity recognised that, and you know, it's an important part of who we are. And children, as you'll know, Asma, are taught from a very young age about praying, etc.
That's right.
They sleep there, they play there, and they pray there. So if you can help with that, you know, your time is more valuable than anything. To anyone out there, you know, if you can help, that would be amazing. Your lovely daughter has just texted in, Asma. I don't know if you want to read that.
Assalamu alaikum, Asiya and Mom. The Children's Hospital, like I have always said, is a home away from home for me. I miss the Children's Hospital and also Ward 14, including Hospital School, who were part of my life when hospitalized and when I had major surgery in 2004.
Subhanallah.
I was going to come to that Children's Hospital.
She's an inspiration. She really, really is. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha. You know, I'm really sad that you couldn't be with us here today, but inshallah, we will catch up soon. We'll get together. We'll have a cup of coffee or something. You know, it'd be really, really nice. There's another one. Do you find that, you are a star from Rafiq.
It's my brother.
Oh, mashallah. Do you find that Aisha is treated the same by all cultures and ethnicities, or is there a stigma within the Asian community in general? That's a very good point, actually, if you want to expand on that a little bit, Asma.
Yeah, so I know we talk about this often, and I know today is about the Children's Hospital, but I think there's still a stigma in our culture regarding disabilities, etc. And, and people like Aisha, who are advocates, I hope are able to work on that and overcome
and to
stigma
change,
and make that change. Definitely make
absolutely.
that change.
I know firsthand what you mean by that. I don't have, alhamdulillah, we were lucky in the sense that we didn't have, Yahya didn't have a visible disability.
Yeah.
His was all internal. It was, his insides were not quite there, but, visibly, perfect child, so nobody could really tell. That has its own struggles because you're trying to explain something that people can't see, unfortunately. And with Aisha, I know she's a strong-headed young woman, and she'll make strides to change the perception, inshallah, of how disabilities are viewed and that kind of thing from especially our culture as well as the wider communities. Children's Hospital then, Asma. What is the importance of supporting our hospitals through Leicester Hospitals Charity and the difference it makes to patients and their families? I know you're all keen sort of ambassadors and vocalists for the Children's Hospital Appeal. I'd like to know, your experience if you can share that with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think when this, having a children's hospital under one roof is going to be, I think, wonders for people like us who had to travel to Manchester and Birmingham and Cambridge for anxious care. Yeah. And I'm not saying there's no specialists here. There are.
Yeah.
We've got some amazing doctors here in Leicester. But when this project does take off, inshallah,
inshallah.
It's going to work for so many people. Just to be under that one roof, to have that care, makes such a difference.
I know you've had travel to Manchester. I've had travel to Birmingham. It makes a huge difference if you're in your own city, in your own environment, with your own nurses and doctors. For those of you that don't know, the Leicester Children's Hospital Appeal is a huge project for £15 million, of which £7.5 million was fundraised by Leicester Hospitals Charity. It's to make sure that all of children's services go under one roof, and the aim for that is sort of the end of the decade. Inshallah, phase 2 will be complete. We will start the next bout of fundraising for that in due course, but the first lot was £7.5 million to move over the children's cardiac ward from the Glenfield into the Royal. Purpose-built facility, brand new equipment, or whatever you can imagine is there. I went to see it and it brought me to tears because I thought, I've never seen a catheter lab, and I went to go and see it and my child was there. He's been there before. We saw the theatres and we saw the wards, and it was amazing. It really was. And the work that they do is second to none. It's world class, really, isn't it? It's absolutely fantastic. Another message that's come in. Assalamu alaikum. My daughter used the Leicester hospitals regularly before she passed away in 2017. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. I'm so sorry to hear that. The staff on Ward 14 and Ward 11 bent over backwards for us for the 8 years she used the hospital. Even today, her picture is up on the staff board with her favourite nurse. I have nothing but positive things to say about LRI Children's Hospital. Mashallah, you've not left your name, sis. Sorry, I'm getting teary, and I go back to that sort of place with where Yahya had his favorite nurses, and the nurses loved him. They really loved him. It was an amazing, although a very difficult time, a very amazing time at this. We got to know so many people, and now the work that I do carries on his legacy, inshallah. Inshallah. My sister's asking you, Asma, how do you support your daughter as she has grown up into a young adult, and how do you keep her motivated?
That's an easy question, because Aisha she's such an individual that actually she keeps us going.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. And I think that's what makes her life easy, is Allah's given her so much strength and courage that I think it's just, it's not us, honestly. It's not us as parents. It's actually Aisha.
That has her own motivation.
She does all the work.
Subhanallah.
All the work.
That's amazing. It's so amazing to hear that, isn't it? The message prior about the young girl who sadly passed in 2017 was from a lady called Shifa. We hope, Shifa, Allah gives you peace. I'm in a very similar situation to you. I lost my child. He was 2 years old in 2020, and he passed away and returned to Jannah, where he belongs. So please do keep us in your du'as as well, and you'll, I'm sure, be in ours. Salams, do you sisters have anything you would like to address? Any issues in terms of hospital care? What could be done better? I work for the hospital, so I will be slightly biased, but I'll let Asma get to that in a second. I feel very strongly about the care that Leicester hospitals provide to anyone and everyone, and I think the one thing that could be better for Muslims and for our community, or generally all communities, is the inclusion of festivals and celebrations, and that's what we're making steps and strides to do now. With the Eid Gifts campaign that I'm running. If you want to donate, there's 3 days. It's www.justgiving.com/fundraising/Ramadan-radio. Again for you, www.justgiving.com/fundraising/Ramadan-radio. We will have Richard Mitchell in a little while tell us where we are at the minute with the fundraising. I'm very excited for you all to hear. It's an amazing effort, and I want for us, Mad, to tell you now why it's very important to have have fundraising for the local community, and why it's important to give at home as well as abroad.
Yeah. So I think for us, we often think of projects abroad or elsewhere when thinking about giving, in charity. Yet so much can be done within our own communities too. Sadaqah is what the hospital is accepting. So consider giving that there. Yeah. And zakat, where it's needed. Sadaqah will come and fill the gaps in zakat on the day of judgment, and we may have missed out. Yeah. So, do your bit, everybody. We've got a wonderful children's hospital here, and one of the sisters asked there, how can we make it work better? And you know what? It's a two-way relationship. Yeah. It's us and them. Yeah. It's never just about us providing that, them providing that care. Yeah. It's us as parents, caregivers, meeting them halfway
and working together, right?
And this appeal is where we need to start.
Right, a step in the right direction, inshallah. And you're completely right. We provide care to our children at home, or whoever the patient might be, and they provide it in the hospitals. They provide extensive, very, very good levels of care, and we should, wherever we can, appreciate that and thank them. Part of the reason why, when Imran and I go over on Eid, we'll take like an Eid box or something for the staff, so that they remember that, Asiya and Imran, they come in and they bring us something as well. It's not about just the children. Because of COVID, we couldn't for the past few years, but inshallah, this time round we'll be able to. We have about a minute left with Sis Asma, and then we're going to move on to the pre-recording with Richard Mitchell. Any parting thoughts, Asma, at all?
The parting thought is support this appeal, because it's just, I think everybody needs to make a visit to the hospital if you haven't, to know what we're talking about.
Sure.
And it's the relationship that, because you just don't know when you're going to need the hospital. Anybody's going to need it at some point. Yeah, I agree. It's just building on that and us, our community, supporting the children's hospital.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. When we do have the availability for people to come on the ward and visit, if your fundraisers for the charity, inshallah, we will do that. We can't do it right now because of COVID and infection prevention, but if you do have a chance, look over the charity's Facebook page and Instagram page, and everything is on there. Richard Mitchell is now going to be in conversation with me around fundraising and Leicester Hospital's charity. I will come back and say salam to you all once that's over. Today, we're going to be speaking to Richard Mitchell, who's the CEO of University Hospitals of Leicester. And I'd really like to give him a big warm welcome. Richard, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
No, thank you very much for agreeing to come on with me. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man, so thank you very much for making the time to speak to me today. We'll dive right in, Richard. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your job, if that's okay?
Yeah, so my name is Richard. My family and I, we've lived in Leicester and Leicestershire for pretty much 9 years now. We've got 2 young children. My wife works at the university. Prior to living in Leicester, I'm from London. I've worked in the NHS for over 20 years now, and I'm really fortunate to be the chief executive at the University Hospitals of Leicester. What I like about working here is I feel that by working with others we can make a huge difference for people, not just the people who use the hospitals, but also the people who work here. I'm forever bumping into people and finding out about their experiences of working, of receiving care at University Hospitals of Leicester. I feel really proud to be part of the team here. I think many things we get right, but I'm also aware there are many things that we're not getting right. And I look forward, I hope, to being part of the team here for a very, very long time, and being a small part of a team that gives Leicester and Leicestershire the health services that it deserves.
Amazing. Thank you, Richard. And I definitely second your thoughts and your feelings around being part of a wider sort of purpose, isn't it? It's a really nice thing. And as you all know, I really love my job here, and I don't shy away from saying that. Second question then. I know you have a very, very lovely family, and I've had the pleasure of meeting your wife. You speak very fondly of them in your weekly emails that you send out. Can you shed some light on the importance of family units supporting the local NHS Trust and Leicester Hospitals charity?
Yeah, so I feel really privileged and thankful for having the family that I have. I'm particularly close to my wife and our two young children. To be honest, it was only really since when I got married and then we had children that I sort of understood clearly the role of families that they have in our lives. So hopefully I'm receptive as a chief exec to the role that families can play in our organisation. I know that we from a family unit perspective, there's a whole range of things that we're doing here. So from our children's hospital, our new children's hospital that I'm sure we'll be touching on, we have facilities so that families can stay on site whilst their child is being cared for. I know that there are huge fundraising initiatives taking place to ensure that we can further support that, and that our chaplaincy service is also supporting the families of patients. One of the things that always makes me smile is as I get to know a bit more about the University Hospitals of Leicester is when you bump into people who very proudly say, well, that my mum works here, or my grandpa works here, or my uncle.
I'm one of those people.
Yeah. It's a real sort of, we are part of the community and we are a community. Yeah. And I think that's really special.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. As you know, I came to the charity in the form of a parent ambassador 2 years ago, prior to starting employment at Leicester Hospitals charity. I have, over this last month, successfully launched a parent ambassador programme for parents to get involved in. What are your thoughts, if any, on this programme and its importance for our hospitals?
Thanks for the question. I think the Parent Ambassador Programme is really, really important. As we've described, it launched at the beginning of Ramadan. My understanding is it's a community of people who will fundraise and support the awareness of the Leicester Hospitals charity. We are so fortunate at University Hospitals of Leicester to have the charity here. Hopefully we can touch on it, but the amount of money that you and others have raised is incredible. Specifically the work around the Children's Hospital, we are so proud of the services that we already provide for children here, and we're hoping to increase that over years to come. So I think the idea is that we're going to have a really strong community support in place. as we start the fundraising for the second stage and the final stage of the Children's Hospital. So I think the Parent Ambassador Programme is essential, and we're really grateful for it.
Thank you very much. The Muslim community, as you know, Ramadan FM is a community radio station. It's an initiative set up mainly, the majority of the presenters and the team are Muslim. The Muslim community is keen to be represented around the hospitals. I've recently been a part of the diversity campaign at UHL, for which I've just seen the poster in your corridor.
Yes.
And it's promoting our diverse workforce from the colourful city of Leicester and beyond. What's your vision around representation at UHL, not just for the Muslim community, but for all the communities of Leicestershire and Rutland? And what can the community do to help you in making this vision a reality?
So going back to my opening remarks about the difference that we can make here, I think I said words to the effect, we can make a huge difference to the people who work in this organisation, the people who receive our services. For the avoidance of doubt, the word or the phrase I should have inserted is we can make a huge difference for all. And that all part, I think, is really important. So we know that in particular in Leicester City we have a hugely diverse population. Been doing some working with colleagues in the university from a research perspective, and let me just try and get the numbers right. We've got 70 languages spoken in the city?
Yeah, something like that. I think last I heard it was 79.
Wow.
I know.
So someone's updated it. And then the bit that blew my mind, very difficult to prove whether it's accurate or not, but I believe it is, the Narborough Road.
Yeah.
In the space of a mile, there's either 23 or 27 different nationalities.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. So we want to be a great employer for all, and we want to provide great services for all, whether that's through the lens of the Muslim community or any one of those other communities out there. I think by and large we're making progress around this, but we've got a huge amount to do. I'm acutely aware that as a white male, heterosexual, probably middle class, had a relatively comfortable upbringing, my life is different to the lives of some of the people in our communities, and we need to be receptive to that. I have privileges and opportunities that not everyone has. I want to work with others to reduce that difference. I'm aware that the executive team at University Hospitals Leicester, in general, look pretty much like me, as does the senior leadership team. I've been listening directly to a whole range of colleagues, and this organisation and our communities have a promise that the senior leadership team at the organisation will represent the communities that we serve. So my vision around representation is, whether it's the execs or the senior leadership team or other people, we need to have a group of leaders who look like and represent the people who work in the organisation, and by extension who represent the communities that we serve. As I say, we are beginning to make some progress. We've got a huge amount to do, and I want us to be the best possible employer that we can be.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, actually, Richard. It's a real breath of fresh air. I'm just diverting off our notes a little bit, but it's a breath of fresh air to hear you say and recognise, the little bits of change that need to happen, and it's sort of heartwarming for me, Muslim woman in a sort of middle management kind of position, and it's nice to know that this step's being taken for people like me and others to kind of move up and be represented along the senior leadership team here at UHL.
So and it's really important that people are honest with me. I'm not going to disagree with people. Perception is reality. I one of the things I've really tried to do in my first 6 to 7 months in the organisation is to listen intently and to understand where people are coming from. And the vast majority of what I hear, I agree and I accept. There are deep-rooted inequalities in society. There are deep-rooted inequalities in work. That's the same across the NHS. Obviously, the conversation today is about University Hospitals of Leicester. I don't think we are different to most. What I'm trying to do is quickly move beyond providing people with some sort of hope or some optimism that things will get better, and then no progress. Because there's only so long you and I can have a conversation and I say words to the effect, don't worry, things are going to get better. And you're like, well, it's been 3 years now, nothing's changed. Yeah. We need to make progress. But I firmly believe with the chair that we have in the organisation, working with colleagues such as you and others, our mindset, the way that we're communicating, being absolutely clear what we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate, I think change will happen. And I think it will happen sooner than people think. We're not going to get to our final point quickly, because this is a long running thing. And I go back previously, my family live in Leicester, and the opportunity to be here for a very long time, God willing things will go well, would be a delight. So I'm here for the long time. I want to make change over a very long period of time, but I want to accelerate that change around inclusion and equality and diversity as quickly as possible. Just on that just brief point, I know I'm rambling, sorry, but I think in terms of equality, diversity, inclusion, I think there are two important parts to it. There's a bit about employment and there's a bit about provider of healthcare. We have more work to do around the EDI lens in terms of employment, but we have got well embedded networks. I think we've got a well understood way of working, and we have, as of 30th of May, our new Chief People Officer in the organisation, somebody called Claire Teeney, who I have worked with previously, and I know exactly what Claire will offer this organisation in terms of inclusion. So I can see some progress around employment. The second bit then is that bit about accessing health services, and as we were both saying, 70 different languages spoken, etc., etc. We have 115,000 patients at the moment waiting for surgery. You walk through the city, you walk through Rutland, you walk through the county. 1 in 10 people are waiting for surgery at Leicester. Certain demographics will be waiting longer than others, going back to that bit about inequality. So we are rapidly looking at the way that we provide services and making sure that in a world where we've got COVID, or we're learning from COVID, we are being as equal and as inclusive as we can be. So I want, given the population that we serve here and the opportunity here, I want Leicester to be leading the way nationally around EDI, both in terms of place to work and a place to receive care.
That's amazing. Thank you very much for that, Richard. It's really lovely to know that you have so much knowledge around it and you're looking to make changes, and it's, I'm sure anyone listening will be really appreciative of everything you've said there. Moving slightly away from UHL and a bit more into Leicester Hospital's charity, we've got many achievements, but I want to know which one you're most proud of and why.
So I think there's so much to be proud of within the hospital on a day-to-day basis. We make a huge difference to so many people. We are intrinsically linked or tied into the charity. This hospital would not function without the charity. I think the work of the charity over many years has been incredible. I think if I was going to identify one thing, it would be the work that the Children's Hospital did in partnership with others around the fundraising for the first stage of the Children's Hospital. I think it was £7.5 million that was raised by you and by others, which I think was incredible. I know that in the Muslim community in particular played a key role in that, and I'm so grateful to people in the communities listening through Ramadan, Radio Ramadan, to this also as well, following the incredibly sad loss of your son Yahya. I know that the community got behind you, and I think have been supporting you and your family personally, but also the money. And you and I first had a conversation about 6 months ago at the Leicester City Football Club, and I was incredibly humbled by what I heard from you. So yeah, I think that the money that the charity has raised to support the Children's Hospital is that one thing. I would agree.
That's my most favourite bit as well, and it's probably because I'm personally tied to it with Yahya's legacy and sort of being so personally involved with it, and having used the facilities of the cardiac unit when it was over at the Glenfield. They are amazing. And we absolutely in Leicester deserve to have a standalone facility for children. They're our future, aren't they? And I'm sure you'll second that.
Absolutely, yeah. And we all know many families whose children have been cared for in the hospital here. And we deserve to have that standalone hospital, and we will have it in the future. Probably also just a good opportunity just to reference the work that you've been doing, your campaign around the Eid Gifts for Children's Wards this month. I know that's making a huge difference as well. So
we're just about to move on to that.
Okay,
Actually,
apologies.
no problem. That's perfectly okay. It's our last sort of closing statement. This year's fundraising campaign, Richard and I were speaking about before we started this recording, is Eid Gifts for Children's Wards, where myself, in partnership with Radio Ramadan and Leicester Hospitals Charity, set out to raise £3,000 to buy children's wards or departments in our hospitals a gift hamper for the festival of Eid. There's 13 children's wards and departments around the hospital, as I've been told by the play specialists. And I'd love for Richard to let you know, as of this morning, we're on Tuesday, the 26th of April, as of this morning, what the current total is.
Yeah, I'm delighted. So, as you referenced, I think the aim was to raise £3,000.
Yeah.
And you were briefing me beforehand. Within 7 days, I think you'd gone through the 3,000 mark, which is an incredible testament to your tenacity and to the compassion support across the community. So, as of today, the 26th of April, we're delighted that the current total is £3,883.
That's
which
right.
Is remarkable.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to everyone involved. I'm acutely aware that this money will be used to bring joy to the children and the families over the Eid celebrations. I'd like to thank the Muslim community, or the Muslim communities, for their continuous contributions in supporting our hospitals charity, not only in the past, not only in the present, but let's not forget about the future as well.
Yeah.
Going back to your point, we deserve to have the best possible hospitals, and I encourage them to continue to work with us. We do not get everything right.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. Healthcare is an incredibly complicated business to be part of, but what I see at University Hospitals of Leicester is 17,000 people who are working hard and want to make a difference, and working with our Muslim communities, working through like the Eid Gifts for Children's Wards and other campaigns. I personally think we should feel really hopeful and optimistic about the future of the services in Leicester.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for the people who've raised the money.
Thank you, Richard. Eid is in just a few days now. We've got less than sort of 5 days, I think, left of Ramadan. I know you probably don't celebrate it, but a huge Eid Mubarak to you from us, from everyone at Radio Ramadan, from me and Imran, from our families and friends. And we hope you have a lovely time doing whatever it is that you do, regardless of whether you celebrate it or not.
Thank you. And I'd like to wish you an Eid Mubarak as well.
Thank you very much.
You to your family and the wider communities. It's been lovely catching up with you. I'm so grateful, and I really look forward to working with you in the future. And as you said, we're currently in my office at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, and it was delightful. Just as we walked down the corridor, we saw your picture. And
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that you're part of our campaign.
Well, I'm sorry you have to look at it every day.
Not at all. No, not at all.
Thank you for coming on with me today, Richard. And that was Richard Mitchell from Leicester. Sorry, that was Richard Mitchell from University Hospitals of Leicester. He is our CEO. And we were in conversation together just around Leicester Hospitals Charity and the work that we do to support the wider hospitals. Assalamu alaikum everyone again. Asiya here. Richard announced £3,883, but as of right this second, right this very moment, we are on an amazing £4,434. I spoke to Richard, I caught up with him on Tuesday morning, and that was the total for then. But as of right now,
MashaAllah.
Akil. We're on £4,434, and I just want to end this segment. We've had so many messages. I'm really sorry we couldn't read them while the recording was playing, but Jazakallah to each and every one of them. We've had a lovely message come in to say, how incredible it is and how humble Richard is and how amazing it must be to work at the Trust. Please do check out the jobs. I'm sure there's something for everyone there. Have a look on, even if you just Google NHS Jobs Leicester, you'll find the link to it and it'll come up. We had a message saying, why don't the masjids get behind the campaign? Absolutely. If you can speak to your local masjids about supporting the hospital's charity, please do. I've got about 45 seconds left now, and I'm acutely aware that this is my very, very last show. I'd like to thank Asma for coming on with me today and sharing her experience. No, Jazakallah to you for sharing it with us, and I wish Aisha and your family all the best. We had a lovely message from Safiya, your daughter, as well. So Assalamu alaikum to you as well, Safiya. Eid Mubarak to all of you listening, whether you celebrate Sunday, Monday or Tuesday. We don't know when it might be, but have an amazing day, and do make the most out of these last few days and nights of Ramadan that we have left. We don't know if we'll get to see the next one, but we pray that we will.